What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Friday's Capes and Cowls. Whoa! Holy moly, what an episode of Loki. The season finale hit. Yes, as you saw in the title, it's going to be a full-on spoiler discussion with myself, Winston, and Coy. We will break it down. There's a lot of questions that I have. I think I learned a lot, but I know I have a lot of questions that I'm sure these two lunatics know more than I do, so we'll definitely get into that. The Marvels, well, that movie hasn't been divisive. We're going to talk about how it is a conversation starter. For sure, there are people who love it. There are people who don't love it. What will it do at the box office? We're going to do a full spoiler on Monday, but we will talk a little non-spoiler between the three of us on that. And the Rotten Tomatoes score, it started low. It's back up now. It's fresh. It's 61%. Will it go up? Will it go down? The audience score seems to enjoy it. Will that help it at the box office? We'll get into that. Tons of news now that the strike is over. We got Jake Gyllenhaal. Is he coming in as Reed Richards? And if so, why? We'll talk about that. There's a lot of other things. There's a lot of pushback of the movies in general. We knew that was going to happen. And I actually think, I say this, I think Winston was right. Winston said that the Captain America, I think last week we said Captain America will probably take the Deadpool spot. Well, they pushed Captain America the next year. And all the way through, I think the year after, was it 2025? 2025. Mm-hmm. So, and then Deadpool did get pushed to July, as we thought. We'll discuss that. The Thunderbolts got pushed to 2025, and we'll discuss all that also. It was a good move, bad move. Tons of stuff to talk about on Capes and Cowls today, guys. So make sure that you guys are tuning in. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Guys, you want to see the best graphic ever? Look at this.
Oh, I like the duct tape.
Do you not know how to color?
I didn't have time.
I like it. It shows ingenuity.
You know what's hilarious is that I've been using it, and I keep telling myself that I'm going to change it, and I just don't have the time to, and it's becoming like a bit to where
it's grown on me. I like this.
It's terrible, but I love it. We're on the road to 200. We just hit 100, so thank you guys for being part of it. And the other thing we'd love for you to be a part of, if you can get there, Burbank, we're doing a full stand-up comedy show. Myself, Winston, Coy, Roxy, Chris Carr, Brett, and Kate, all going to be there. And if Mike Kalinowski, if we get to 600 patrons before then, Mike Kalinowski can do a 5-minute set too. So check it out. Hope you can do it. Hope we can see you there. All right, let's get to it. It's Capes and Cowls. It's me. It's Winston. It's Coy. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Capes and Cowls. Coy Jandro. Winston A. Marshall.
Bro, there was a fly that as soon as the music dropped, it started buzzing around. Oh, this is my shit.
Good.
Hell yeah.
They like it.
Gotta be that episode.
They're excited because they know they can eat us alive when they're out here. There's the shot that I was so proud of last week or 2 weeks ago with the nose shot that people did not like. We switched it now back to that. I like it a lot. People were giving me a little more credit.
Still
for
slightly
that.
Dutch, which I respect.
Yeah, I like it. So here we go. All right, guys, let's do the Loki thing first because we didn't get a chance to talk about 5 last week because we didn't see it.
Yeah,
5 was fantastic. What I said I think it was my spoiler review earlier was that we collectively loved 1. We collectively, maybe the only 3 people, didn't love 2. 3 was really good. 4 was great. Thought that was going to be the topper. Then 5 surpassed it for me, and then 6 blew it all out of the water.
Yeah,
completely agree.
This to me, and I genuinely hope. I normally, if you got a good thing, you kind of want some more of it. But I think I'm getting to that age now where I can temper stuff, and when it's like I've had enough. I hope this was the series finale because if so, this was perfect.
Yeah, poetic.
It was so poetic. It doesn't mean that you can't have another Loki somewhere because of like variants and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that you couldn't have those characters that were in the show, so the Sylvies and the Mobiuses and all that show up in some other form or fashion. But this show needs to end right here, and this Loki we don't need to necessarily see again unless something happens where that tree gets destroyed. I don't want to see another season. That was the perfect poetic ending to his character arc.
It did, and let's kind of go back first to 5 real quick, right? So 5 to me was, and I said when my the immediate reaction was that the way that it seemed before seeing 6 was they were almost setting Loki up to be like the new Tony Stark because they gave him this ability that he's trying to figure out. And I thought they did it so brilliantly, the way you and I have always talked about, Corey, like the time travel aspect. And if you do it the right way, and it makes sense. And the science fiction part of it just makes for a good show. And I thought 5 just really made that all work to where he's trying to figure it out. You get a little bit more, and the ironic part tying into 6 is he doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be alone. He wants to be with his friends. He wants to. He's found. He thinks in 5 his purpose is saving his friends. He thinks it. And so when you watch it back 5. After you've watched 6, it has even more of a purpose.
They did that great thing where not only did they tie into the whole first season, not only did they tie into the Avengers, but they really built up the stakes just in time to tear them away in episode 5.
Yeah.
I think 5 was such a beautiful way to go, like, we want you to feel his loss. And then what I was really impressed by with 6 was you went from this compounding loss in 5 and this pacing of, like, realizing what he's missing and, like, it's literally seeing time ripped away from him and how, like, tactile that felt. And then it was so clever in 6 to change the pace so aggressively so that in the opening of 6 there was that frenetic pace of him going through time and like this almost like chaotic mischievous element to it, and then that way that when it slowed down in the second act and then it came to a crawl of mythology and lore in the third, the weight of it was so strong. But I don't think we would have felt that weight without 5.
Right. And
So I love that they built weight and then they frenetically changed the pace and they brought you back down.
Well, everything you just said, it was the writing of this show. The writing of the
and
show,
the editing, the pacing,
the music, like it all, the acting, it all worked, and it just got better and better and better each episode. To me, what I had said was my favorite. I think it's my favorite season of Marvel television by far. I think it's, and then because it was so good. I had WandaVision over Loki season 1, but because 2 was so good, it elevated 1 because it all ties in, especially after the stuff they did with He Who Remains.
It's also just from the standpoint of WandaVision, I think for a lot of people was it went from being an A+ for most of it to a lot of people dropping to like an A-, maybe a B+ because they felt like you took something that was so unique and so so unique and so powerful.
Generic at the end.
Then all of a sudden the power fight, and it was just kind of like, oh, this just became a standard blase, like whatever. I think with this, because you found ways for it to still have superhero elements, but it never devolved into that.
Yeah.
It always became a conversation about philosophy, free will, all that kind of stuff. It just became very... There was never a point. I think the only one I could think of is honestly episode 2 of this season for us, where you're maybe a little disjointed,
and
but
I'd
otherwise,
so much rather episode 2 than episode 6.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, that's
Stick
why
the
it
landing.
elevates.
That's the hardest part.
Because to me, 6 in WandaVision was my problem, and it made it like an A-, and that's why Loki season 1 for me was always my number 1 show. This makes it even more distant from the rest of the MCU shows.
I mean, there's a reason why Endgame and everything before it, like, you're fine with Infinity War and Endgame, like. You stuck the landing.
Right.
You can deal with the Thor the Dark Worlds if
Because
that's
they
your
enhanced
worst.
Thor the Dark World by way of it being so good, just like this enhanced season 1 by way of those retroactive fixes.
But people also remember the last thing you did.
Right.
So to that point, because the mistake or the weak point was early enough on, and it wasn't at the end here.
Right.
And it wasn't nearly as bad as sacrificing the season. It was, hey, we don't love the pacing of this. We like elements of it, but this just doesn't feel as exceptional.
I would make the argument, I know people don't love She-Hulk and whatnot, but we were okay with it until we got to that last episode, and dealing with the Feige bot was like interesting, but like I personally had mentioned I felt cheapened in that I don't mind that conversation if she then goes back and actually solves it. Not just we're just going to skip it and everything's done. That upset me because I'm like, so you didn't actually close things out.
already.
And
I just think the tone of that show is one of the, I mean, different conversation, but with this, what they did here with the science fiction of it all and how it was really well written, and speaking like of humor, to where I always try to push back when people say, oh, you just don't like humor in Marvel. Definitely not true, because the stuff he's doing on the bridge when Victor Timely is walking through and he's
You're
like,
so brave.
Yeah, you're so brave. And he's walking him through it.
Because he's lived it for centuries, so I love that he's like, this thing like it needs to be said, but it's so like, you're so brave.
Right.
But so good.
That to me is brilliant writing and directing and acting.
The
All to be nominated, guys.
He should probably win because
That's hard to say.
It was so Shakespearean.
Do you think they would treat it as a limited series, or do you think they would actually be like,
It's
this
a
is season
season
2 of
two.
a show,
Season
so you
2.
wouldn't? Okay.
Yeah.
But
So he's up against the bear.
which is, that's not a
Jeremy Allen
comedy.
White, their whole strike was just walking around wearing a white shirt, so I thought of the bear.
Not a
We're on to you,
comedy.
Jeremy Allen White.
Like, it has comedic ass moments.
Well, so
but
I would argue that this isn't a comedy.
This is not a comedy.
that's true.
Yeah.
I'd say the bear is more of a comedy than this, and the bear is like tense.
That Yes, I can agree with that. But the one thing I was going to say specifically about this wrap up and the idea of how Loki doesn't want to be alone. I think what was brilliant is obviously we got the montage element of centuries later, which I thought was hilarious.
Well, let's go through that though, because I just wanted to wrap 5 real quick to it because 5 was able to, he gets his powers, he's tried in the relationships, he's got to get everybody off that timeline, puts it all together, and they had that moment in 5 that was essentially like the snap.
Yeah.
And when that was going down, and then he realizes I can do it, and you have it at the very end when he jumps in, you're like, oh, and then it ends with that kind of the music of and then it gives you that same kind of feeling you have before, but different, to where you're like, oh, well, what's next?
And can I admit, I was worried at the end of episode 5 that, and I said this a few times to people, I was so afraid that 5 ended in a way that was going to leave 6 to have no impact in the MCU. I was really afraid they were going to he can time travel now.
They pointed
and
to you
and like, this guy's watched the Marvels. Yeah. But I think that the way it ties up in 5 is to make you think that 6 is just going to be like, oh, he's going to solve it. And then they genius establish that 6 is going to cycle and cycle, but it's the anti-Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange does that hey, we've come to bargain, and that's the atrophy. In this, he has to accept that that's never going to solve it. And I thought it was genius subverting of expectation.
It was great. So, but then they ended it with 5 going exactly what you said. Like, well, where do you go? And then what we did, and I'm kind of do what I did for my spoiler review. We'll do a little bit of it right now. And I even the start of it with the big green logo. I love how they do that. But then it takes us right back into that moment where he leaps back in. And he's trying, and now he tries to figure it out. And what I also dug, and I said this, and I want to
before you go further. Sorry, did you catch the logo thing?
Let me say, go back to the logo.
So, did you why the logo felt different?
Why?
So the logo was slow-mo in reverse. So it went from the end of where it usually goes to the very beginning, because the end of the logo is us beginning the MCU, which is what Loki did. So they played all of the graphics in reverse. It was
very
flipping
well
backwards.
Written show.
I didn't realize that.
Very well written show.
It brought us back to Loki creation through the logo.
But I loved this, and it almost had this moment of he's playing it's like Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he's going through it, and he's got to.
I love that movie.
Me too. So I slept on.
And he's watching this, and it just keeps going bad. I love that to them, the way that all the actors played it. If you look at it, to Loki, he's like, all right, I got to do this again. I got to figure this out. He's not in the mode of this is the end of the world. They're all in the end of the world phase.
He has to be in another play.
You heard what he apparently did, right? He would send everybody else to lunch. Apparently,
who?
Hiddleston. Okay, he would send everybody else to lunch, and they would keep filming so that when they would come back, obviously they've seen the script, but as far as how things are playing out, they're completely in the dark.
That's fun.
And so then they were just like, dude, what the hell?
Right.
What are you
props are moved, and he's got all the
and his manic energy, and essentially that they had no idea kind of where he was at, and he's genius.
He's next level in this episode. He's next level in this episode, and I love the fact that what they did throughout this series, not just this season, but this series, they've given it to different people throughout the series, whether it's Sylvie or Mobius or 52, whoever, they give it to people to run with, but fittingly, this was for him. This was his episode through and through, and he just was we've talked about it many times over. They don't have any all-stars right now. He's an all-star, but he's sitting in a tree.
But he's now done. He is now.
He's the hula hoop man. He's trapped there.
He is officially retired, and now the idea is oh God, do you tempt him with one more contract to unretire and
maybe
Brady
he'll
this?
appear into your oars
that's what
as an abstract.
We'll figure that out in a second, because there's so many questions I have about that. I don't even necessarily know if we're going to be able to get to these other stories today. We'll see. So and then he has these conversations with Obi, and he's like, okay, and he keeps jumping back into these moments, and this was again where the humor works. He's like, and where they're trying to explain to him, he's like, no, can't talk, hurry up, go fast, and he's pushing him out the door, and he keeps blowing up, and you're like, this is the way it's working, where it's not just, it doesn't feel like a bit.
It's traumatic.
Yes.
It's funny, but it's like you're laughing to cry and crying to laugh.
Because it's necessary what's happening. He keeps blowing up, right? So then he goes back further, and he has this whole conversation, with them, and I love the reaction from Mobius. So like you said, what are you doing? Especially
because the other part is, if you remember, Loki was like, how long would it take you to teach me every single thing you know about physics, quantum physics, time? And they were like, decades, centuries. So by the time he actually has mastered it and understands, everybody's like, Loki, you're not let Obi do this. Like, you're not, what are you doing? Like, because then I was like, is he going to figure out how to jump with one of them? But I think it was so brilliant to be like, no, it's just,
Centuries later.
And you know what I loved about that? I loved that they didn't show one frame of him learning.
Right.
this stuff.
Didn't need it.
Didn't need it.
It wasn't important.
Was not important.
Because
we got it.
Well, you also got that in terms of the other he was learning about, oh, we got to do that faster. Oh, don't put that down. So we got the idea that he's learning every time he goes. So we didn't need the physics lesson, which I'm sure the writers to that point learned enough to write their show, but also didn't want to actually get into the quantum physics of how that works. But it doesn't help anything.
It's not the point of this episode.
No.
It really isn't. Because when he comes back and again showing the brilliance of Tom Hiddleston in this, he just has this thing where he comes back and he's talking in these terms, and you're like, oh, I believe that he's been gone for centuries and has learned all of this stuff, and it's almost like he had to spend all of that time to get back, and he finally does into that moment, into this particular thing, and now he's telling him. And then I don't know how you guys felt, but as he's telling Victor Timely this time around, I was like, I feel like Timely will make it, but will he make it the whole way back? I didn't know if he was going to make it the whole way back.
The tension was authentic. I really felt like I wasn't sure how the show would treat it.
I felt like you had to, if the idea was that this was going to somehow revive He Who Remains in the first place. Like, I felt like there was going to have to be that moment that happens.
I mean, the whole time I was thinking that Kang was the one that made this all happen. And that's at the end, obviously, we find that is an element of it. But I was like, I think maybe he wants him to get spread through time. Like that whole...
Yeah.
Because the voyeuristic angles made it feel like someone was watching. So I
Yeah.
thought Kang had been watching because he set this in motion with the book. And I think they intentionally made us feel like everything was under Kang's plan.
So it's interesting because I have like two thoughts that come to mind. The first being, I thought what was brilliantly done was when Loki finally starts talking to He Who Remains. And so we're now in Act 3 and he's kind of figuring out what he's going to ultimately do and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was brilliant for him to be like, and what makes you think that this is the first time we've had this conversation? And I was like, whoa. I was like, way to play with us with time again, because you caught me off guard for a second.
And then they did the power play of Loki having that same...
That's what he said.
Oh, you're saying that with
the fact that he's fully mastered his powers at this point, the fact that he was like, we had this talk.
Yeah.
But I love that Majors did it first.
Yeah.
And then, like, because it was literally a power structure switch that we got through a line of dialogue.
And I want
that's
to
what I
jump
love
to
about
all
Tom
that.
Hiddleston.
I want to jump to all that stuff that he had with He Who Remains, because that's like, to me, where I start to have my questions to you guys. But before we do it, I also want to tell you guys, as we do every week here on The Big Thing, our sponsors are super important to us. They keep us going, they keep us on the show, and it also offers you guys some really quality stuff. And nothing better than having the boys downstairs in good space. So get Manscaped. And you want to have some energy, to do it, AG1. So let me tell you both about Manscaped and AG1 right now. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's a ball trimmer sent from space. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working day and night to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. It's got the Lawnmower 5.0. This is a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. You got to upgrade your grooming game to the Ultrasphere this year by going to themanscaped.com for 20% and free shipping. Use that code BIGTHING. High tech, low prices. Manscaped. I love Manscaped. You guys know we've been talking about Manscaped forever. We've been talking about Manscaped. And why wouldn't we be? I use it all of the time. It's great. Look, everyone's talking about AI right now, but to me, I think this is the biggest technological advancement the world has seen in the past decade, hands down. Every guy knows how scary it can be when you're going in for a close shave. You go down there and you're like, oh, here you go. Am I going to be one of those stories on the news? But I don't ever worry about that anymore with Manscaped. You can do whatever you want. Do in the bath. The Weed Whacker 2.0 also features skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in all the delicate holes. I love the nose trim ones. I'm never going to look like my grandpa with the nose hairs coming out of the thing. I don't have to ever worry about that ever again. Get 20% off and free shipping, but you got to use that code, man. Big Thing. Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with that code BIGTHING at manscaped.com. I can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship before. Get yours today from our folks over at Manscaped. I always get excited when I get a chance to talk about AG1. You guys know, if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know that I've been talking about them. I've been drinking them now for, it's got to be at least 2 years. I started drinking AG1. I think Brett Sheridan told me about it. I said, you can't mess around with this, man. You got to try it. And I did. And it's a foundational nutritional supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. I've heard so many different people now talking about it since we've been talking about it on this show and how much AG1 has helped them. I talk to you guys, a lot of you guys, when we talk to do my one-on-one sessions that I do with people that go, yeah, I started doing AG1 and I love it. It gives me the energy that I need. Parents, I found new parents love this stuff. But everybody loves it. And not only for me did I replace my multivitamin with AG1 because I was never the multivitamin guy. I would try it, and I was like, everyone's telling me, you got to do multivitamins, you got to do multivitamins. And I can't do that many vitamins. One scoop. I put it in a water bottle. I put it in a zoo cup. I shake it up. I'm good to go. I recommended AG1 to everybody, my friends, my family, you guys, and it's worked out. It's great. I get energy. I get a pep in my step. I love AG1, and you guys know how long I've been talking about it. People still they'll tweet and they'll X whatever they X me, and they say, "Hey, AG1, you've been talking about it forever. I'm trying it today," and they never go back. AG1 is the supplement that I trust to provide the support that my body needs daily, and that's why they've been a partner for a long time now. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out. All right, thank you to our friends over at AG1 and Manscaped. Holidays are right around the corner, everybody. So make sure you check out AG1, Manscaped. You will thank me for it, and you'll love it, and you'll also be helping out this show. All right, I do want to continue on I do love how excited Loki was, by the way. That's a great, as I said, a great thumbnail reaction face.
YouTuber Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah. And then this is when we find out nothing's changed, buddy. Like, nothing has changed. Like, you can't do anything, and they have this realization.
The fail safe.
And it's also so genius that it would be infinite. Like, why wouldn't there be infinite decisions, infinite timelines, infinite
and to also then explain, and it's so funny because I was like, are people gonna get the dividing by zero thing? And I was like, that's basic math you learned in elementary school. You can't divide by zero.
Yeah.
Because you can't split up something that's nothing in the same way you can't slow down infinite. It's infinite.
Yeah. It's infinite.
And they explained such a broad concept with like 5 lines of dialogue. Yeah. It's genius.
Mm-hmm. And that's when it takes us back here. And the second we see this, I was like, yes, they had to go back here. And because this is my favorite scene, as I'm thinking everybody, when Loki season 1, the introduction essentially of Kang, He Who Remains, and the way that he was just brought onto the scene where you see this guy's for real.
Yeah.
And this is even that times 50 with what they do here.
There's something more sinister, I would argue, about a villain that can cut you and can destroy you just with their words than I can just blow everything up.
Yeah.
And it's not that Kang / He Who Remains couldn't just blow everything up. He's physically strong enough to do that too.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can just F with your brain, because then it really feels like, I know Loki's a god, but then that actually feels like you're trying to shadowbox with God. And that's
the fact that when he stops Sylvie and just stops her cold, that shows you how powerful he is, and it shows you he could have done that in the first place.
Right.
Could have done in the first place.
The fact that he keeps laughing, see you soon.
He chose.
I thought the flouse was there every time. See you soon.
It was great. So and then this whole thing is going down, and you're watching this whole fight.
Can we give credit to the editors right here? Because not only did they have production design out the wazoo to rebuild that set, because the scene opened with them showing a different angle of actual season 1, and then they match cut to season 2.
Can't even tell.
And it's perfect. These people have aged 2 years, and they just masterfully relanded it. They relit it. Just every crew member who doesn't get enough love for the work you do. You did a match jump cut through time travel in real life. Thank you for caring so much.
It was brilliant, and all of this, and he even says he just tries to go back to the elevator. Nothing he's doing, and I didn't know if they were going to actually have him kill Sylvie, right? And they're going through it, and he goes, "Why don't you do something? Do something." And that's when he gets into it, and they have this incredible back and forth, the two of them, both Majors and Hiddleston. This just two powerhouse actors kind of having this dialogue about this is where I started to say like, well, immediately, all right, I got questions for Winston and Court.
For sure.
Yeah, because as this was going on, and he's like, okay, so Majors or Kang said, or He Who Remains says, "We'll kill her. Do that."
R.I.P. HRT. That line fucking.
What is that?
There was a point at when Jonathan Majors was he was like, "You just thought that was it? R.I.P. HRT? No, that's not the story."
Got it.
I was like,
well, when he does that, and they have that conversation, he says, "Well, you kill her. If you take her out, this doesn't happen. We put together the TVA continues to do its thing, and then we're good to go." And then Loki says, "Well, no, I want to." Instead, why don't I just blow this thing up? Mm-hmm. And then he said, well, why would that? So I'm asking you guys, why would that cause this multiversal war then?
well,
Because that's the equation that's keeping it all together. He Who Remains basically built something to prevent that multiversal war using that equation. So the act of blowing up that equation would be the thing that negates that from occurring. Like that's the only thing. It's like a dam.
But isn't
The
that
only thing
ultimately what
keeping
Loki
it-
does?
Well, he does it in a way that is removing him from the equation.
Removing Kang from the
Yeah,
equation,
because he's taking control versus letting it be his design.
Right. So that ultimately does set up the possibility of not having Kang back, right?
The kind of.
but the only thing is, and this is where I was trying to, this is where it kind of came a particular way to me, is he goes and blows up the loom, right? All those timelines were still dying.
Right.
So it really sounds like He Who Remains still won, which is like kind of dark and sad in the fact that he blew up the loom. All the timelines died. So then he went out there because he has time powers now, grabbed them all, and then essentially is keeping them alive via himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the multiversal war is happening. Literally, you're not pruning timelines anymore. It's just that Loki's the power source for them all.
But I think that's why if they chose, they could have, Loki is kind of the antithesis of Kang, and Kang's the antithesis of Loki as far as the end of time, the beginning of time. So I could see where they don't bring Kang back. If they, you know what I mean? Like it does button up the story.
It does. The only question, though, is at the end, Renslayer is laying on that planet, and she sees the pyramid in the back. Isn't that a variant of Kang that is there? I thought so.
I thought so
At the
too.
end of time, I interpret that as a lie.
Plus, she woke up with what looked like the ruins of the TVA because the symbol
sigil,
said forever and always, the protecting time forever and
She's
always.
in a different timeline.
It seems like she's at like the end of time again. Because like at this point, Loki is like the center of time, however you want to describe it. That's why he's holding on to all of the timelines at once. It seems like she's now at the end of time, which is where she was supposed to or wanted to be with Kang in the first place. But Kang kicked her out and was like, bye. And then just like was there by himself. So that might be the only place where maybe the show picks back up. But I feel like if anything, if everybody's getting their ending, for her, the ending was she was always supposed to be there in the first place.
Well, didn't they also set up, because they show like Victor Timely as a kid not getting the thing that time. So
and they also have that line, which you caught, which I was proud of, the 616 adjacent, which is the quantum realm, which is what we just had with Quantumania. But his dismissive of it, like we got a lot of variants. Obviously, that's where it was intended to go, like before all the court drama and everything else. I'm just saying that was genius.
No,
but what I think they're in an interesting position because obviously they announced Kang Dynasty, and I really honestly hope that everything works out with the Justice Department that is like honest and true, but we just don't know enough data to decide where to go with the story. I'm just acknowledging like the Kang story could be wrapped here. I hope it's not. But I don't
They found a way that they could do it.
They could.
If they needed to, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite of that Variety article we love so much.
That real quick on last episode, that's the one thing that was funny. Like, how dare they?
How dare they disrespect Variety?
They just
called it a hit piece and a clickbait.
You shill.
It's just another website that needs clicks.
So much.
It was so funny.
You were doing so good.
You haven't even gotten to the next episode yet.
You're doing so
I don't read the comments. What do you mean? Internet.
I was going to ask you guys this because the part where I was confused based off of how this all went, I think there was a quote either in that article or just somebody in general that said, "I've seen the end of Loki and there's no way you can get rid of Kang." I was like, I'm confused.
That's why I bring up that this could be, because it seems like a beautiful way.
It might have been a different ending too.
That's a possibility. maybe if the
It's just
argument
long enough an episode, I feel like it'd be odd to add another. But even if there's like 2 minutes maybe of Kang like fully formed or something.
Yeah.
I guess I could get it if you're trying to say because Jonathan Majors acted his ass off. But the truth is, even for as good as he was as HRT again, the little moments of time, like him mocking Timely, oh, you met Victor
So good.
Timely. Like, I was like, God damn, you evil.
Yeah.
But Hiddleston out-acted him. And the funny thing is it's not because Majors did anything wrong or bad. It's just because this was so about Loki.
Yeah.
And because he did such a good job, it's literally seeing Kevin Durant and Steph Curry on the court at the same time. It's like, yeah, Kevin Durant's still Kevin Durant, but Steph Curry put up 60 tonight.
Right.
Like, what are you going to do?
For sure. Absolutely. It's a good reference for sure. And I'm glad that we kept up on the sports thing. That's what we do here. That's what we do here. All right.
Sports movie talk.
But yeah, as he's still trying to figure all this out, you know, and he's the timelines, and then he just doesn't know what he's going to do. You know, and then when he jumps back to the point where ultimately was episode 5, right? Because he doesn't. I don't want to blow past this moment. This moment with him and Mobius.
Oh, I love that he went back to his friend. He needed advice, and he needed advice from someone that was going to be honest. So he went back to the one that would be honest at the time. Because I think if he went back to Mobius when they'd already become friends, he'd be worried that he'd know too much. And I love that he went back to when they weren't friends, so he could ask his friend real advice. That was beautiful.
There were two real that for sure. I think the fact that. And it speaks to Mobius's character in both. And I thought Owen Wilson did a good job of tapping back into past self. The fact that Mobius was very cryptic with Loki beforehand because he wasn't his friend. That was a prisoner. And so he told the story about himself. But he goes, there was some random hunter and he didn't take the kid out. And then it had repercussions. And then someone had. And so he kept it very cryptic. Loki obviously was able to piece together, you know. So I thought that was beautiful. But I also love that the two most important people in Loki's life at this point, because obviously Freya's gone, there's whatever love with Thor, but he's really not been a part of this at all. So the two most important people in his life are Sylvie and Mobius.
Yeah.
And he went and had a moment with both of them.
And then when this, you know, the handshake of that moment in general, because it's really like their partnership throughout this whole series has been one of the most attractive things about the show. Right? And it's like that detective thing that they did for a lot of season 1, and then playing into just the real good partners that are friends now. And like this moment it was beautiful. It was sad. Like right when he shakes his hand, and because Loki knows that this timeline is collapsing on itself, and then Mobius disappears, and he knows he's got to go back. So he hits this moment that we were talking about in 5, and he hits, and he just freezes time, tells Sylvie what's going on. Now this is where I was going. Well, I guess he's getting her permission to kill her.
Yeah.
And she says as much.
She says she won't. She's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this poor lady, though, with the haircut they gave her in this season. But then he goes back, and this is the moment. Like, he knows. And this is, to me, I always mention, have you watched Braveheart yet?
You told me to wait.
I did. You should watch it. We just did an Elemental first time watching with Brett. We'll do
because I was gonna do a CPT review on it, and I'm trying to.
We'll do it. But one of my things in that movie, and there's a lot of different performances, but the one that I always, when I was younger, it stood out, and I've mentioned this before in this show. William Wallace is on the battlefield, and there's a particular moment that happens. I won't spoil it for Winston yet. And there's something that happens that Mel Gibson just does with his eyes, and he doesn't say a word, and you know everything. That he's going through and everything. And there's a moment like that in Loki that Hiddleston does. It's like
I think it's the very last frame. It's him in the tree.
That's a good one too. But it's that. It's that
acceptance, but like broken.
100%. He just knows what he needs to do. He just knows. He doesn't say a word, but with that face looking right there, you're going. And for people who are listening on Spotify or Apple, he just kind of like it's as Coy said. He's just got this kind of calm face of I just know what I have to do, and he goes out and he goes back on the bridge. He doesn't need the spacesuit. He opens the things up and he starts moving. And music.
From this point, can we acknowledge the music, but also Justin and Aaron? Man, not only do they give us some of these incredible
Who's that?
The director, sorry, Justin Moorhead and Aaron Benson. guys, thank you. This shot right here, I was about to say, and you already got pulled up, when he's walking and it becomes this amazing comic book shot. Like, this is a comic book come to life.
Yeah.
But then later on, they do these incredible POV shots that are like the actors are monologuing at you like on a theater stage play.
Yeah.
They make Shakespeare and comics and the medium of TV work. Like, the directing in this is 3 different mediums all coming to life.
And this is ultimately, because I'll tell you, when I started watching this, I didn't do my reaction to it, but I was sitting on the couch and I was watching it on the big screen. Sound was fantastic, the music and everything, and I'm watching it. And I would have had one of those moments in the reactions that I've had in the past where I'm like, I go, don't you kill Loki. Don't you kill Loki. Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
Bro, the only thing funnier about that is I had, so for anybody that follows me on social media, I ran for the first time in like 7 months, which was dope.
For office?
Yeah.
First time.
First time.
Need to do it.
I won.
Congratulations.
But so I came back, I showered, and I told Kristian, I was like, hey, I gotta watch Loki for work. I mean, I wanted to watch it, but I was like, I gotta watch it for work. So, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna go watch my thing. So I literally just laid down like in my towel. So by the time she came back out, I had turned the lights green because we have light controls or whatever. It's in the middle of him like blasting the loom. I'm at this point just naked, just on the couch, just
Manscaped.
and she goes, what a
just having
vision
a
this
time.
is.
Like, what?
She just literally is like, what is going on?
Yes.
And I was like, like,
I cannot wait to rewatch both of these seasons back to back because of moments like that. Because of the way it plays with
naked
time
on the
back and forth.
couch?
Because of those moments, that's what I'm gonna experience. I'm gonna achieve enlightenment like you did. No, but I really love doing these. With the Real Rejects, I really enjoy doing the reactions, but it's been really hard for this show to be aware that I'm on camera while watching something this good.
Right.
Like, it's not that. Like, I want that experience, and instead I got, like, remember, if you don't make a face, the internet will think you're mad. So, like, I had to be so present that I can't wait to just, like, be enveloped by this
Yeah,
art.
it's true, yeah,
This
true.
is art.
Well, and you watch it, and at the end, like as he's going through all this, and then this part, man, and this is the whole point. The first episode of season 1 was called Glorious Purpose. This is called Glorious Purpose. It's
wait. The first episode was called Glorious
season
Purpose?
1.
That's why I thought I was confused. I was like, I've seen this episode,
That's why
like, because I know he says that term a lot.
It
Obviously,
just goes back to what he said with the opening credits. It's like
the
bring it
beginning
right
is
back.
the end, the end is the beginning.
Also, the burden with glorious purpose, using that phrase, which we tie to Loki, and then talking about it as a burden,
Yeah.
and that conversation with Mobius turning into the burden of purpose and the purpose of burden, and a new Ouroboros about just the weight of the throne and how they tie into that. Like, he's wanted a throne from the beginning, but when he wanted a throne before, it was malevolent. Now he's cursed with the throne, so we've actually achieved the burden of glorious purpose, and how the crown not only now looks like more tangible, there's weight to it. The fact that these are elements we've seen throughout, like the MCU, the fact that like the stone that we've had with the MCU is green because it represents like what Loki's built. Like, there's so much beautiful world building through just that one sequence.
Yo, wait a minute. The time stone is green because it's Loki.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
the time stone's created because it's
No, it's not that. But if you talk about how this is all interconnected, right?
Yeah.
So if Loki is the one that has at this point mastered time, I mean, it's him and Kang, but he's mastered time. Loki's whole color scheme from jump had been green. So they obviously, I can't believe that Feige would have thought of that way
but
long
they
ago.
made this the
But they
writing.
made it all work together.
It's one of those
That's
moments.
why it's green.
It's one of those moments of like, wait a minute,
We could do that.
Darth Vader could be Luke's father.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But to this scale, like to the scale of like creation and time,
But I-
Loki green.
I think the other thing about it, and that's what's so interesting, and to me, this is something that I would do, or that I guess I did as an actor. I'm sure writers have done this too, but I guarantee you the thoughts that were going through Hiddleston's head at the end of that, I'm sure his whole life is flashing before him, other than being able to see all of time now because he's in the middle of it. I'm sure his interactions with Odin and the idea of like, how are you going to pass me up for this idiot and all this? You never loved me.
Remember Odin told him he'd never be king?
Yeah.
I remember that too.
And now he's
that
cursed.
He's a whole different level of king at this point. But I think there was also, you could see it in his face, or at least I would guarantee these are the thoughts going through Loki's head.
Well, that's what he said though, dude. He said that he's going to be, burdened with glorious purpose. He's been saying this since
He was saying it for a long time, so they found a way to make it work.
Found a way to make it work, and to me, he's a more important character than Tony Stark. He's a more important character.
Well, than Odin.
Thor than anybody.
You obviously we've been following the Avengers, but I'm saying like in the comic lore, Odin, as powerful as he is as the king of Asgard and all that stuff, that he actually has more power and more responsibility than Odin ever had in that regard. But I think that what I would say in that actor brain at that moment, I would be thinking to my father and being like, wow, I actually have a lot of respect for you now, and I kind of get it. You did have to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
You did decide to save me, and I grew up under you and all that. Just from the standpoint that I know that for myself, there have been times where I've looked at things that my parents have done, and I may have been really mad with them, or I may have been whatever, and I'm like, man, you were just trying your best. And you had so much that you had to deal with. You had so much that you had to.
You don't realize it at the time. Yeah, for sure. But all right, moving. We're almost finished with the Loki season.
The Tree of Life, man.
Yeah,
that was the other thing for him to be the Tree of Life as well. That's crazy.
And like I unique, like Koi particularly, like I am obsessed with the concept of the Tree of Life. Like I want to be buried in a yew tree, which is like the Celtic Tree of Life. Like I've got this whole thing with that tree. So Loki's been one of my favorite characters in the MCU, and that moment when they like shaped the entire narrative into something that means so much to me, that might be one of my own personal favorite moments in the history of the MCU. Like in 15 years, that hit me like in such a powerful way that I was like, oh, this is why I love this world. Like this reinvigorated my love of Marvel in a way that I can't even quantify.
And Marvel needed this for me anyway. For this was a bit because what it did was it answered questions about the new phases and like the sloppiness of the multiverse and the sloppiness of the way that they were using time. It made it way less sloppy, and it made it go, that's our particular goal, even though we don't necessarily know who the villain of that goal is yet. They did it in a way, as we just discussed, that you're like, okay, I want to listen now. I want to figure out why, because now, but they got to stick to that. And I think Deadpool will continue with this.
I'm glad we only got one Marvel movie next year.
Yeah,
it's not going to be good for my bank account.
We'll talk about
it'll
that.
It'll be great for you.
It's. I think both that and the fact that like it was a nice reminder, because people love to say the sky is falling, and it doesn't mean that there isn't trouble all around.
Right.
But just a reminder that, yeah, they still got the sauce. Like, they maybe not hitting at an 80% clip, but like they still have it. You know?
Look, I said this the other day, where it's like, this is how we are as a society. The society is, we love when an underdog wins. We love when someone makes it to the top. And Marvel, for a bit, was an underdog. People don't remember that. They had to sell off all their stuff. They had to sell off everything. They were selling things to Sony. They were selling things to Fox. And then Iron Man was an underdog.
And the Dark Knight was, and all of that
Iron Man
dominating.
was an underdog. And it became a massive, massive thing. And everyone loved them when they were up. And then people loved to watch people fall. Like Mike Tyson. Loved watching Tyson come to the top, and then everyone loved when he fell. And then everyone got excited when he came back.
Not to quote The Dark Knight, but you die the hero or live long enough to split up with the
that's
villain.
the thing, though, too, is it's a matter of people are like, oh, it's over. It's like it's not over. It needs work.
So many people
this show that it could.
I posted the thing because I'm mad at the internet, but I posted the thing about the Variety article and like people being like, "Oh, Marvel's over," and then a Loki episode 5. How quickly people were like, "Oh, Marvel's so back."
I saw that, but
I've got to follow up. I got to follow up.
Okay, go ahead.
But I love that a bunch of people, while the show was airing, went on my thing and being like, "Thought you hated the Marvels. I guess Marvel's dead after all." And it was like while this was airing. And my point is, you cannot be so fickle with something so big. You cannot look at this narrow-minded perspective of one property as affecting everything. It's not dead or alive. It's a literal growing universe.
Have you not seen what my life is as a Cowboys fan? Do you know how quickly they go, whatever, it wasn't that good of a win. The minute we lose by 1 point, oh, you dumbass. You guys are terrible.
Yeah, it's just how it is. That's why I try to tell these guys. It's like with Twitter, for me, it comes like, post and run. Like, that's what I do. I post my stuff. Like people were like tagging me on my out of the theater reaction. Sorry, didn't check it. It's like no.
I think next year I'm going to try to do like an hour a day, like have a TV time, but for social media. Be like, this is when
I'm keep it to 10 minutes, boy.
There's so much social media.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I want to continue. I want to end up with Loki here too, as we get now the after, as we talk about. So 52 comes in, and now it's working. TVA is moving. It's still, and I think I think this connects us into Deadpool. I think TVA is going to be connected to Deadpool, and that way it says, "Oh, I thought it was." You're not going to say I thought it was destroyed, because they clearly set it up. Now, I love the fact that they had missed minutes. She's back.
She's not going to kill us.
No, and Obi just kind of shrugs, like I don't know. And then this was a nice moment again where Mobius is just kind of thinking about things in general. And so what's this in particular to this? Just file is just to
It's
go.
Kang variants, if I remember correctly.
That's for the Ant-Man.
Yeah, that was the reference to the 16
okay, that
adjacent.
was the one, right. And then
I wish we could
so
turn
what's-
this back
so
on.
what's
I
this?
can't really see.
That is his file.
That's it. Yeah, that's his own
That's
file.
his.
And that's why he is able to go back and see.
Because he's aware of it now. Because this
Got
Mobius
it.
wouldn't have had that awareness. That is literally the first time he's looking at his life.
I got it. So
Because that other Mobius got erased.
Right.
The ones that Loki went and found all his friends in their normal lives,
In the time.
they're all gone.
Right.
And I always considered this ending the beginning of the TVA. I think that's the invention of Miss Minutes, not the reinvention of Miss Minutes. I think this is the TVA found.
No. This is afterwards. No,
Because
that's
they
afterwards.
were turning Miss Minutes back on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And the fact that because if that was the case, then the Loki stuff they wouldn't even know Loki.
They wouldn't know him.
They know what Loki did.
Yeah, and that Mobius has that morning. Yeah, you're totally right.
Plus, if I'm not mistaken, when they get the TVA manuals, doesn't it say like second edition
Yeah,
or
it's
something
yellow.
on it?
Yeah, no,
Because Loki wrote it, right? Is that the case, or maybe not? I don't know.
I think it's amended through the data he got from Victor Timely.
I understand. So this is what this conversation was really nice and sweet, and the fact that she'll be sticking around. Now so this is everybody now in the TVA, correct? And because they have this moment where they.
So what does that say? What does that say? I couldn't.
I think it's the second edition, right?
Let me see. I'll try to zoom in on it.
Yeah, second edition in yellow.
Okay, so the new things that he's learned, obviously, now Obi is writing it. He's doing this thing. I hope he appears again because Kid Kwan is just absolutely a delight.
I think he will. I think anybody from this show, it's going to be small. It might be like if something time related comes up, they might show up for like a quick 2 to 3 minute scene, which that was the thing. Again, Kristen didn't watch it with me, but she walked by. She goes, "Oh, I'm so happy that he's getting this," because obviously he did Everything Everywhere and got the Oscar for it. But then, the fact that his career really is back on track is
He was
amazing.
so good in this show too. And then, like I said, we had this moment. I picked up more things than I think that I gave myself credit for, because I was like, okay, well, here's Victor Timely. He never really becomes He Who Remains because they don't drop that thing in the window. He's just doing it. And then we cut to Renslayer, who's now, like you guys said, I guess she's just in a portion now where it's the end of time or whatever it might be. But what's she looking at here? What is this?
Two theories. One, Kang, because the purple glow.
Right.
Two, I thought maybe Eliath.
What's that?
Eliath's that big,
was the beast, right?
Yeah, the big beast from season 1.
Oh, okay. But that why is that as
Just felt like
important? Why wouldn't you show it if it was?
That's true.
But that's what I was saying. Remember when we last came to the end of time, where Eliath was, that same forever always symbol was there. She's at the end of time.
That's what I'm saying. Why I thought it was Eliath.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you show Eliath? Like, why,
Well-
it's not, that reveal is like, wait to find out what that is.
It's very possibly. I could see that 1,000%. I for me, the way I registered it was just the idea of she was at the end of time with Kang, because we saw that flashback in I think episode 4, where she was with Kang, and it's like, we did it, baby. We built it together. Blah blah blah. And he just goes, and then she's gone.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's the setup, right? Maybe that's also, as we were talking about before, where they don't know yet where they're going with Jonathan
That
Majors.
allows that to stay open.
That allows that to stay open for if it turns out it is Kang, then we can make
Cut
that. If
from
not,
there.
yeah, because they don't give you a clear thing. So maybe that's exactly what the intention of that was. So we end. That's kind of ending with her, and then we get to this really nice scene where I thought it was actually going to end. I thought this whole show was going to, because we see Mobius kind of watch himself in that. He's looked at his file. He's gone through. He's got
And again, these POV shots, these
great.
amazing one-offs
Really,
where it's like
really.
he's talking to us or looking at us.
Yeah, and then this really nice moment with him and Sylvie, which I thought the sweet moment, as they were talking about, they mentioned Loki, they have this conversation, I can't believe he's gone, and how he says he just wants to kind of sit by and watch time pass, and she just gently puts her hand on his shoulder, and that's the end of their relationship in general, and he's left there, and that's really the last time we kind of see Mobius, and then we end the show with that wonderful shot of like, he doesn't look sad. He doesn't look sad. He looks like this is what I'm supposed to do.
He looks resolute.
He got everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
I think he has an understanding now of what that meant, because I think there's plenty of us that would say a phrase or a mentality but not actually understand it.
Yeah.
He gets it. He understands, and he's resolute with what his life will now be forever and always.
I'm with you, though. I think that this needs to be the series finale. It needs to be.
It does. Which, holy crap! I just realized that The whole slogan of the TVA is for all time, forever and always. That literally is what just happened to Loki.
Yeah.
For all, he is
For all
now
time,
the
always.
guardian of all time, forever and always.
Yeah. So
I
look,
hope
that was
buttons it up, man. I hope
Yeah.
that's the end because it's so.
you're so
perfect.
good at this, yet you're not even close to that microphone.
I think you gotta let some things rest, and I think that'll also be a good vote of confidence for Marvel if they do. If they go like, "Hey, we trust it," like that's let a player still sit over there.
Like, honestly, can you imagine you've made a perfect steak? Like a perfect steak, and then you decide at the last minute, you go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mess this up and throw a sauce on
No,
it.
no.
All this, it's done. Just it's done. Serve it as is. You do not need to
Put
revisit this.
A1
It's
on
done.
bad steak because you need it. I love you A1, but you only save
I
it for the
love
not.
A1,
Yeah, but you don't
but
put it on
yeah.
good steak. You
No.
let steak be
No, no,
steak.
no.
You don't need
This was good steak.
So that was it. It was a full-on spoiler discussion on, to all of us, I think, the best series that Marvel has done. So what say you? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Make sure that you comment. Leave those, leave the theories, leave the speculation, put it all in the comments, and let's talk about it for sure. I want to get into some of these big stories that have been dropping since the end of the strike. So before we even do that, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at Rocket Money and Kajabi for creators. You both should be using Kajabi, especially now that you're making material again on your channels. It helps tremendously and is a good way to monetize. You don't have to have a ton of subscribers yet. As you're building, you can make a lot of money doing it through Kajabi. So let me tell you about both Kajabi and Rocket Money. Here you go. For creators out there, a lot of different creators out there, and I want to tell you guys about Kajabi. I want to tell you about them right now. I'm excited to tell you about them because if you didn't know, I think, look, I've been doing this creator thing for a long time. And what everybody strives to do is you want to be able to make enough to earn a living doing what you love. So Kajabi makes it easy, actually, to diversify your revenue. You can build your own brand. You can turn your audience into customers. Now, with the disruption of revenue streams from algorithm updates and product changes, if you're a creator and you don't use Kajabi to diversify your income beyond ad revenue and brand deals, you're leaving money on the table. And this is very true. Look, I told you, I'm planning on making a move. This is like this is my family, man. I'm everything. So this is something great. Earning a living directly from your audience is one of the most sustainable ways for creators to build a business. And you don't need a huge following to do it on Kajabi. You just don't. Creators and entrepreneurs value full ownership and control over their brand. With Kajabi, you have 100% autonomy with free customizable templates that you can make on your own, even if you're not tech savvy, and you keep what you earn. You don't have a huge audience, doesn't matter. You don't need it to make a sustainable income. There are thousands of creators on Kajabi making 6 and 7 figures with less than 50,000 followers. Try Kajabi and join the creators and entrepreneurs who have earned over $6 billion. Right now, Kajabi is offering a 30-day free trial to start your own business if you go to kajabi.com/bigthing. KAJABI.com/bigthing. Go to kajabi.com/bigthing and earn more doing what you love. I keep telling you guys about Rocket Money. I love Rocket Money. And if you're not familiar with what it is, I started using them a long time ago. They were under a different name at the time, but now they're Rocket Money. And basically what it is everybody signs up to those things like, hey, try this for 30 days, and then it's free, and then you'll be paying for the rest of your life and not even realize that you're paying for it. And that happens to us. We get subscriptions, we forget about them, and then you pay twice sometimes. You don't even realize it. Rocket Money, for me, it canceled subscriptions for me. It said, hey, listen, these are all the things that you signed up for, dopey. It didn't call me dopey. I call myself dopey. But they said, hey, listen, you signed up for this, and you shouldn't if you don't want to, so let us cancel for you. And that's exactly what they did. And it lets me know about subscription prices of all the streaming stuff. And now with all the strikes, as they're coming to an end and there's new deals that are being made, the streaming prices are going up. And they say, hey, there's an increase to all these things. Be wary of it. It tells you how much you're spending per month. It tells you all these different things. It tells you your credit score. It tells you everything. And it's been so helpful to me. It's a personal finance app. It helps, it finds, it cancels unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps you lower your bills in one place. It has over 5 million users, and it keeps going up. Rocket Money has helped save its customers an average of $720 a year and $1 billion in total savings so far. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Manage your money the easy way. Go to rocketmoney.com/thing. rocketmoney.com/thing. One more time, rocketmoney.com/thing. thing. Thank you to our friends over at Kajabi and at Rocket Money. Make sure that you use our code. Help yourself out. Check it out. And it helps out the show tremendously. All right, let's move into some of these stories because we got some, guys. We got some major stories now that the strike is over. All right, we got a lot of things moving here, guys. You got Deadpool. Deadpool is moving. And we also have the other one that is moving, and that is going to be Captain America and Thunderbolts. So let's start with this. This is from Mark Cassidy over at Comic Book Movie. As he says, the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes are officially at an end, but with productions forced to be paused for such a long period of time, the release dates were inevitable, the delays. Marvel Studios has now pushed all but one of its 2024 big releases down to 2025. The trades have announced that Deadpool 3 is moving back from May 3rd to July 26th. That's something we all thought was going to happen. Yeah. While Captain America Brave New World is being pushed back to February 14th, 2025. Thunderbolts is moving from December 20th, 2024 to July 25th, 2025. And the Blade reboot will now open on November 7th, 2025. While these release date shifts are not exactly unexpected, we have some surprising details on the reasons that Brave New World was delayed. According to Jeff Snyder, on this week's episode of The Hot Mic with John Roca, the latest Captain America adventure did not go over particularly well in test screenings. Apparently, 3 key sequences have been cut out and extensive reshoots are planned from January until May or June of next year. Deadpool 3 will be the only Marvel Studios movie opening next year. Earlier today, Ryan Reynolds confirmed that the threequel will be ready by the summer by sharing a photo of Dogpool. And he says, did Dogpool save the day? Not a chance in Gremlin hell, but she is currently causing the Disney plushie merch department nightmares, coming with the movie summer 2024. And then there's the picture of Dogpool. So let's just start with overall, these were moves that we're not going, wait, what?
Yeah.
It was, as they said, inevitable. You knew it had to happen. And we knew that Deadpool, they had to keep Deadpool in 2024. It's going to be their biggest movie. That movie could make $1 billion. It really could. As a rated R film, it could make $1 billion. And because
would that be the first
rated R $1 billion movie?
Joker did, right?
Oh, Joker made $1 billion. Joker made $1 billion. I forgot Joker was R.
Yeah. I don't remember what the first Deadpool.
Because there's only been a few. There's only been what
870, I think. 870, something close.
Okay.
There's only been what, like 10 or 11 $billion films ever.
I don't remember, but either way, I think it could get close.
Yeah.
And it also, especially where you're going to go with Marvel, I will say this: I think this is a really smart move. What they're doing. This is a necessity, but it's a very smart move in general because you've got this show Loki season 2, right? We'll see what the Marvel's going to do. We'll talk about the Marvels in a second because the Marvels, even though like the audience seems to be liking it, but it's still tracking really poorly. And it's not going to be a hit for them. It doesn't seem, but who knows? But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a hit. Loki, as far as the storytelling goes, and without spoiling, there's something that happens in the post-credit scenes or mid-credit scenes of the Marvels that also plays into what's going on with Loki and all these other things and what will push forward the MCU. So Deadpool is the next step. So Deadpool should be the next movie that comes out in July, and then it owns July. Or it owns 2024 because Echo will come out, and Echo, from what they say, is kind of like distant. It's like its own thing.
It's a spotlight or certain whatever they call it. Spotlight.
Yeah, spotlight. So,
but also we didn't talk about that trailer.
Man, it's good.
Did we not talk about that trailer?
No.
Oh, we weren't on. Yeah,
remember we were all like, "Man, that show gonna be garbage." And then that trailer dropped. I said, "Is that show gonna be fire?"
Yeah, it looks incredible. Like, and if they let it be that tone that
if
Netflix
it's gonna
is,
be that.
Yeah, if it's gonna be that, yeah, you can edit
polish
a
a
good
turd. Remember, we all thought Secret Invasion. That trailer was pretty damn good.
Why would you just take the joy from me?
I know. Well, look, but the flip side to that, to give you the joy back, is the flip side is if they do deliver on that tone, and they separate. Mike Kalinowski had a great point the other day about what possibly could have happened there, because when they put together all these plans, She-Hulk and the Marvels, or Secret Invasion, or even though Secret Invasion was a little darker, but for the most part, the tone was all pretty consistent. And inside of that, almost like what you guys talking about with WandaVision, typical Marvel stuff, all of that stuff, that maybe they put together this Echo tone, and they're like, oh, the audience isn't going to like that. They're not going to dig with it. It's too dark.
Little
It's
do
too-
they know.
It's too, right. And so basically,
Did they
let's put it
watch
out.
Daredevil?
But let's put it out in January because we're not going for that. This is just what Mike's theory was. That let's put it in January, dump it in January, and then they realize you know what we should do? Let's actually retool this now because people are responding to this. And maybe that's what happened with Feige. When Feige said, shit, man, this Echo show's pretty good. Like, you know what? Where we were going to go with Daredevil, don't do that. Let's go back to that tone that they initially had. Let's copy off of what Echo is doing here and make it continuous.
I'd love if the Kingpin we didn't get in Hawkeye, and then we go forward with that because it looks like that Kingpin in the Echo trailer is more Kingpin than we got in the entire series of Hawkeye. Those last 2 episodes, and I think there was more violence in that Echo trailer than there was in the entirety of Moon Knight. Because I like Moon Knight for the most part, but the cutaway from the violence was like clever at first, and I was just like, oh, it feels like Disney, and I would love if they trust in that R-rated TVMA.
Yeah, I don't need Deadpool, Kingpin, Echo. I don't need them connected with the multiverse stuff.
I'd prefer to have some darker
Deadpool
stuff.
you do.
Deadpool you do.
Because you're killing the Fox universe.
I realized you
Daredevil.
say it all the
Daredevil.
time.
I literally thought you meant Deadpool, and I was like, I would.
I say, let me rewind that. I don't need Daredevil, Kingpin, Echo connected to the overall MCU or the actual multiverse stuff and all that. I don't need that. Like, I love the fact that they're doing the spotlight stuff on it. If they can keep them in the spotlight stuff,
I would appreciate having Daredevil once we get to Secret Wars. I don't need Kingpin necessarily. I don't need Echo, but I would appreciate having Daredevil just because of how that whole thing plays out. However, what Coy has been saying about Spider-Man this whole time, it is cool to have Spider-Man, to have Daredevil join the Avengers and be on these bigger adventures.
I missed them in New York.
But you need Daredevil, you need Spider-Man, you need Luke Cage to be handling their own street level stuff, because even though they're all very strong in their own right, their main bread and butter is they are street level. You do have maybe a supervillain with crazy superpowers, but you're worried about New York. You're not worried about the entire world.
Right.
And I think if Daredevil appears like he did in No Way Home, where he pops in, it's exciting. And then you have him in Secret Wars as a full-fledged hero. But I think Daredevil can play a darker part and then pop in.
Yeah, if he
just
pops
like
in.
Deadpool knowing he's. I've been saying from the beginning, I think Deadpool's going to know he's from another universe. That's how they can bleep him, so he can be in PG-13
Same
movies.
with Punisher, right?
Yeah.
Because if they had the Punisher come in and do just go straight up R-rated TVMA during the spotlight stuff,
Great.
And then he shows up and he battles a couple of people in the Avengers, in the Secret Wars, whatever. It's fine.
But
Why
Bernthal,
not?
I know he can still I know he's still passionate about it, so
Yeah,
I'd
he
love
is.
to see that come back because he was signed on for Daredevil. I'm hoping they know better than to bring that all together, make the Marvel Knights.
Well, but that's the whole thing. So with these pushes, and to go off what Snyder is hearing, that the Captain America movie didn't test well.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're like, oh, good. This will, and they should do this if that is indeed accurate. Where if I'm Feige and I'm everybody else, I'm going, okay, look, we can use this strike right now to our benefit. We can do some reshoots on this thing. We have our tone. We have our thing of where we want to go with this now. Let's rewrite this. We have now, a year and a half before this movie comes out.
And they had
now.
6 weeks of the writer's strike ending without actors. So they had all that time to write before they could film anything. I'm hoping they all went, okay, let's get everyone in the kitchen. Let's cook. Let's make this all happen. Because they need it.
And Blade is moving. This is a good thing.
I feel great about it.
This is a good thing. It gives it more time, and it doesn't pile everything up. The big problem that Marvel had, piled everything up, and there's a show, then 2 months later a movie, and then 2 months
People
later
said they wanted a break. Here's your break.
This is a big break.
And I honestly think 2025, if it goes well, will be people being like, oh, we kind of missed this in 2024. Because next year we only get the Joker. 100%. We get the Joker next year and Deadpool next year. That's it for the big two. So then we come, but that means in 2025 we come back with the DC Doom universe. We get Superman, we get the Batman 2 if they ever get to shoot it, and we get 3 MCU films. If this break makes people hunger for it, 2025 is going to be insane.
It's a good break.
The market has been grossly oversaturated. And I think just exactly that, sometimes you just got to go, you know what, I'm going to do a no drink November.
Yeah, I am right now.
And do that and then come back to it and be like, it's the holidays. Now I can enjoy some eggnog. And I know people don't like eggnog. I do.
Right.
And next year gets to be the year of Deadpool, which I'm not mad at.
No.
As you guys can imagine,
No.
it's going to be great to promote that all year.
But if Deadpool is done right in the way that we think it will be,
Yeah.
and it delivers on the way that we hope it could absolutely, and play off of the stuff that we see in that mid-credit scene from Marvel's, people are going to... It's the same feeling you had in Loki episode 4 of, oh my God, what's next?
Yeah.
That's what they should want. That's what made the first Captain Marvel make $1 billion.
And you know what this could feel like?
Yeah.
2001 Spider-Man. It's a big summer movie, and that's it.
And that's
it's
it.
one comic movie to look forward to. We could feel like comic movies used to.
Yeah, it's a good... It really is a good thing for them overall. So I think...
I can't shake the schmodown in 2002.
Correct.
Yeah, was the first
The first
Spider-Man?
one, yeah.
What 2000 even was X-Men? 2002 was Spider-Man?
Yeah.
2000, 2002 was
2004 was
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, 'cause it
Spider-Man
was
2 was
quick.
2004, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know 98 was Blade, but that's all I
Yes.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was before Matrix. That always blew my mind.
I would love to say that I've shaken that, but like
No,
it just...
that's still there.
No, you wrong.
The comments were going to correct me anyway.
that's
So
true.
by all means, please.
Well, let's. I want to do. We have 2 more stories here. A little bit. I know that we're gonna let. I hate this story. I really do. Fantastic Four Jake Gyllenhaal rumored to be Marvel's first choice for Reed Richards, and this is from our buddy Mark Cassidy over at Comic Book Movie. Now that the strike is over, fans are awaiting casting announcements for some big upcoming comic book movies, and Fantastic Four reboot right at the top of the list. We had been led to believe the main team had been cast prior to the strikes, but that might not have been the case. Last we heard that Vanessa Kirby was a lock for Sue Storm, while Stranger Things breakout Joseph Quinn was said to be close to signing to play Johnny, and the Bear and Netflix Punisher actor Eben Moss-Barack is still rumored to be up for Ben Grimm. Adam Driver's name is frequently brought up as a contender for Reed Richards, but it seems the studio may have someone else in mind to lead Marvel's first family as Mr. Fantastic. According to insider Daniel Rickman, Jake Gyllenhaal is now Marvel's first choice to play Richards. This isn't the first time we've heard the Academy Award nominee's name mentioned in the connection with the role, where the previous rumor was somewhat dismissed due to the fact that he already appeared as Mysterio. While this wouldn't be the first time we've seen an actor play more than one character in this shared world, Quentin Beck did have a fairly prominent part in the Spidey sequel, so casting him as Richards would be an odd move by some fans. Matt Shankman will direct from a script by Jeff Kaplan and Ian Springer. Plot details are a mystery, but Kevin Feige has confirmed this will not be another origin story. And then Fantastic Four is set to be released on May 2nd. I think this would be a colossal error.
Absolutely.
Colossal error.
I'm on the same page because we've talked about this before. Moments like this, which is why I actually really loved the casting choice, Corn Sweat, I guess, for Superman.
Yeah.
This is a moment where if you're on the precipice of becoming that guy or that gal, a role like this would do that for you. But then also, it doesn't mean you don't bring people in, but the fact that he's already been in, there's no need to do this.
That's more of my issue than the first part, because if you have Vanessa Kirby, who's is basically what you just said, she's known by people. She's not a major star. She's a phenomenal actress. People who know her love her. That's the lady from Mission Impossible or The Crown. So she's to me, that's exactly what you're talking about. Same thing with the dude from Stranger Things, right? Mm-hmm. Even our boy from The Bear.
Yeah.
All recognizable, but not major stars. I think Reed Richards needs to be a star, but I don't think it needs to be a guy that's already in the MCU. I would. You got to sell it on some sort of power.
You do, but Chris Evans wasn't that guy and then became the guy because of becoming Captain America. Reed Richards...
Sure, but he was by himself. I'm talking about when you have an ensemble cast already. You have those unknowns already in there. You do need, like, you still had Tommy Lee Jones in that movie. You had that movie itself was still risky to do at the time, and it was a smaller budget. This is a bigger budget. But then if you want to do that, we've already talked about doing that with Doom. I think it's more important to have a veteran actor as Dr. Doom than you need to with, I wouldn't say have somebody that's like green behind the ears, but somebody that's like a Jensen Ackles who has already I don't think he'd be good for Reed Richards, but you know what I mean? Like that level of I'm right there.
Yeah. To me, this seems like they've been reading the trades and they've been hearing the word of mouth, and this seems reactionary. This seems like, hey, we were going to go with this, but we need someone who's a marquee name above the title. I think they're doing the opposite. I think this reads as we need Fantastic Four to do 500 million guaranteed. We need movie stars, and this is a pivot because of the strike. But I worry because I do think the casual viewer will be like, "Wait, we saw him in Spider-Man, and now he's over here." But
Adam
unless
Driver,
they separate Spider-Man back out,
but I like the Adam Driver casting.
I didn't hate
Adam
that.
and Adam
And he's
Driver is
already-
as big of a star as Gyllenhaal.
And that I totally understand, and that's what I think. What my issue is, you either need to have somebody that is that vet, and you're trying to bring in the star power, or you need to have somebody that you're pushing them to that next level. The idea of kind of blaspheming on both, it's like weird.
But I also think Jake Gyllenhaal would have been a good choice
do too.
pre-Mysterio. Like as far
I
as like
agree.
his type is like
Yeah.
and his ability, he's incredibly talented. But it also feels to me like he's done some movies that didn't do as well as he wanted, and he wants to go back to a blockbuster. Like
Yeah.
as far as casting decision on his part,
And who knows if it's true?
well, yeah, obviously
There's
that
so
too.
many of these
Just-
different rumors that are going around. But there was somebody that one of the audience suggested, and I wanted to talk about it. They had suggested for Doom that as much as I want Henry Cavill, they suggested this one person. I was like, oh, that would be really interesting if they did that. Was it? Oh, you know what it was? It was Gosling. It was Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling as Doctor Doom would be interesting. Gosling can go dark.
He's a little too old now.
Really?
But no. Hold on. As opposed to Doom, what I would say for Gosling, he's a little too old, but his performance was so good in Barbie. I actually think he would have been a good Johnny Storm.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like 10,
yeah,
10
my
years ago,
God.
100%.
Johnny Storm has like
Yes.
Ken energy.
Yes.
I think that would have
10 years ago,
energy.
perfect choice.
Base.
But we also know he can play dark. So to see him, that would be
Yeah.
that was the casting choice that someone said. But I happen to agree with you. If you're going to go like, hey, we can only put one major star in this movie, Doom or Richards, it's Doom all day.
You
Because
put him
it's
on
also
Doom.
It's
more
Doom all day.
everywhere because I feel like Doom is building to so many things.
Yeah. What do you guys think? You think this is if Gyllenhaal indeed is it too confusing because of Mysterio? I got to hear your thoughts on it. All right, close out this show today. Let's talk about the Marvels. All right, because there's a lot of stuff. Whether it's we're going to do a full-on spoiler-heavy review on Monday's episode, so you'll be able to check that out, all three of us. But there's a lot of different stories here with this. I'm going to read a few of them, and then we'll talk about all of it. The Marvels got $6.6 million on Thursday evening, but it is gearing up to be MCU's lowest opening weekend. The Marvels opened up in U.S. theaters yesterday, and after earning just 6.6, it doesn't seem like Captain Marvel will be breaking any box office records this weekend. While the Marvels has managed to escape that dreaded rotten status on Rotten Tomatoes, it doesn't seem to have done much to help the Captain Marvel sequel at the box office. The Marvel Studios movie kicked off its North America run with a so-so 6.6 from Thursday early previews. Far cry from the 20.7 that Captain Marvel did back in 2019, and then it went on to do $153 million during its opening weekend. Of course, helping that was the fact it was in between Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. 3 weeks ago, a $75 million, $80 million opening looked likely, but as with almost every title released post-pandemic, the numbers are off base. Instead, the Marvels is now opening between 60 to 65, giving it one of the lowest openings ever for an MCU title. To avoid becoming its lowest title, it'll have to beat The Incredible Hulk, which was $55.4 million, and Ant-Man, which was $57.2. Marvel Studios is said to be hopeful that there's an interest and awareness, and it's going to start picking up, particularly as Veterans Day is on Friday instead of tomorrow, meaning kids aren't in school. Pundits will likely scramble to figure out when it all went wrong for the Marvels, though Marvel Studios will probably be setting its sights and delivering what should be a guaranteed $1 billion hit with Deadpool 3 next year. Still, there's nothing to say that the sequel won't have legs. Okay, so now the good news is that with the strike over, Marvel Studios has already started getting the cast involved with promoting the movie. Brie Larson tweeted it out. Ms. Marvel, her director Nina Costa, was out there promoting it as well. And they had, I think, the rest of the cast kind of came out and did some stuff. But
Yeah,
I
Mon
figure-
Villani was at that special
screening
LCAT
last night,
screen. Yeah,
right?
which is cool.
I figured that they would be pushing hard and quick because I was even checking. I figured we would never see so many people getting bumped from late night.
Oh, it's insane.
And the only one I see here is that Brie Larson and Hiddleston are on Fallon tonight.
okay. Well,
which
yeah.
is fantastic because Loki deserves some push too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so then the final thing is talking about that Rotten Tomato score. The Marvels is now in theaters, and while reviews for the 33rd Marvel Studios movie have been mixed, fans seem to be getting a little more out of Nia DaCosta's space-set superhero adventure. After hitting Rotten Tomatoes with a rotten score, Captain Marvel sequel has climbed to 61 with 204 reviews. The score could slip back to 60, and the movie is unlikely to see certified fresh, but its audience score is sitting at a more encouraging 85%. critical and audience reactions. The Marvels is looking at a rocky debut at the box office. The latest updates say the movie could do just 60 million. We just talked about that. But the fact that the score went up, like I can tell you right away. So as we talk about this, and we're going to talk about it on a non-spoiler, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that where we stand right now, it seems like you and I are on the same page with this movie, and it seems like you liked it a little bit more. So which I think is a perfect representation to what we can do on the spoiler, obviously, but even a little bit here. My initial thoughts of it, and we'll give your thoughts of it, and then get the idea of why it's got the rating that it does, and then the kind of box office it's going to do. So, because I did my out of the theater, I did my full non-spoiler review on it. I just think that the movie is not very well written. It starts off first 30 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The way that people were hyping this thing up, that it was going to be such a disaster. It's messy, and it starts off a bit chaotic. But for the most part, it seems like a normal kind of Marvel movie, albeit generic. It seems, and then something happens. There's a particular moment that happens in the movie. It's a bit that happens, and it lost me because it was so silly, and then it also just kind of disconnected the tone. And then they get back into, okay, here's the story. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of back. And then they do another bit. I'm like, oh, I'm really kind of out of this thing now. And then the other stuff that didn't work at all, the villain was just the most generic villain right there with Ronan.
I don't know if this is just if the actress just has tooth caps, then whatever. But I was like, why the villain got gold caps?
I don't know.
That was weird to me.
A lot of that stuff, and the way that the villain seemed like it was like Ronan. It was like who's the other one? The elf, the dark elf. I don't remember his name. Malekith.
Yeah.
So and it just went back into that. The stuff that worked again was Ms. Marvel, fantastic, major star. I thought Brie Larson was much better in this one than she was in the first one. I thought she was really engaged. I thought the fact that what the storyline with her and Monica should have been the major focus, even more so than it was, playing on the emotional things. And Sam Jackson is literally, this is not a joke, is sitting in a seat doing this.
That's because I think my boy is getting old and tired.
And he's earned it. And he's earned it. But he was barely. I mean, he did nothing in the movie. But because I have my reaction of it, I think we should shift to the positive.
Please.
So, overall thoughts, what you liked about it?
I don't know, outside of the Guardians, where I've seen such good chemistry between the main stars of an MCU film. Yeah. I think Iman is it Iman or Imani? It's Iman, right?
Iman Vellani, yeah.
Yeah, Iman. She is. If Kamala Khan is supposed to be that whole mentality of, oh my God, I worship Captain Marvel and the Avengers and all that, and that's what we feel about superheroes and how we would be if all of a sudden we had powers and we got asked to do. She is that lifeblood. Yeah. She is that heart of it. And so every time she's on the screen, whether she is too hyped or she's upset because she got cut out of something or she maybe screwed up or whatever, you are instantly just drawn into her every single time. And then Tiana Paris does an incredible job too. And I truly believe that Brie has taken the character a step further. There's a part of me, and we'll talk about it more on Monday, that I feel some type of way, and it's not it. I'll explain more then, so people don't get don't get all touchy feely right now. I'm not coming for Brie, but all I'm saying is that the three of them is what keeps the movie going. I understand what you're saying about at times it becomes so jarring that you're being pulled out. If you get pulled out of a movie, it's hard to really get back into.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said as far as the chemistry of the three actresses. I just wish they were in a better movie. But Coy, what do you think?
My big issue is this is one of the only times I have felt like Marvel has kind of filled in all the coloring book circles that everyone that hates comic movies feels like they are. I completely agree the chemistry is incredible when they let it be on screen, but you're so busy throwing 100 things at the screen, you cut away from every time there's any chemistry. There's a great scene on the ship that I was really vibing with and I was really connecting with, and they like made it into a montage that felt like there were other scenes that were just talking that could have made it more wholesome and real. And the stuff between Carol and Monica really undermined both of them, because I do think Carol is much more Carol Danvers in this movie. I feel like Brie Larson really, really got to be Carol. But I feel like the story they're trying to tell through Monica and the villain and everyone around Carol, even Miss Marvel, you never get to feel any of the weight because they rush around it. I never got to feel any sort of impact with how Carol felt about Miss Marvel, because they'd be like, okay, they've acknowledged that storyline, or how Monica, the time that was missing from Carol and Monica, they're like, okay, we acknowledged it. It's a movie of acknowledging importance, but never letting importance feel important. And it's a movie that feels like it's edited by committee. It's a movie that feels like they shot it by committee. It's a movie that feels like a director got to direct a few scenes, but then they did coverage that someone else decided was better. It's a movie that feels like the production designer got told, like, do this, but later on we got to fix it here. And the additional photography felt absolutely put in. It's all of the roller coaster that Scorsese thinks these movies are, without the weight that makes them worth the roller coaster ride to me. And it's really disappointing to me because I don't want this movie to be something that people can point to and say, look, comic movies don't work. Worse yet, look, women can't open a movie. Look, they don't have this, because it should be they take more time for the first team movie like this, not less. And it felt like everyone got hamstringed. The actors, the director, everyone making this movie just didn't get to make the movie they agreed to make.
Jeez, dude, tell us how you really feel.
I am so disappointed.
No, totally. I think you make some very valid points. And the question to you guys is, are you going to see it this weekend? Let us know. Before we leave, question for you, Winston.
Yeah.
Let's see who wins next week. Give me opening weekend. What does it make?
85.
Okay, Coy.
62.
See, you're in my range, 63.5.
And the reason why I'm going 85, I think already having enough audience score doing that, and I think having a small little blitz of press that's coming out again. We'll talk about it more on Monday. I have already seen a blitz amongst a lot of the women in my life because of Barbie and Beyonce and Taylor Swift this summer, that they're like, let's go support this film. And I think that will be enough. It's not going to make it bust box office numbers, and it's not going to get it to where I still think it might break even or lose money.
Yeah,
but I think it might hit 85.
Can I also say, with everything I just said, I still want people to see
I do.
it.
Please
so
see
like,
it. Please
don't
see it.
misinterpret that as like, but don't go, because so many people are having so much fun with it. But that's my honest opinion, which is mine, not yours. So go.
Well, what I had said too, and I stick by this too. Go if you want to see it. Like, go if you want to see it. Like, if you don't listen to people that because look, what I will tell you is that people saw my out of the theater reaction and said, "Oh man, that's a bummer. We're usually on the same page." And those same people came back and go, "I liked it."
Yes, I got a ton of that.
So go back
Go
and
see it.
and see if you want to see it. If you're curious, if you didn't want to see it and you never wanted to see it, well, then spend your money on something else. That's how this thing works. It doesn't mean, but also in the same way that I said before, make sure that you're expressing yourself in the way that Coy just did, or that Winston just did, or hopefully myself did, and where you're not being either super hateful or going after someone if they didn't like it. No need to call them names. No need to say. No need to make accusations about their character if they're presenting themselves in a way. If you have accurate criticisms on it, and you're presenting yourself in a professional way, doesn't mean you're misogynistic. Doesn't mean that you're racist. It means you didn't like the film. So now, as I said, there is a flip side to that. That if you're being an absolute, lack of a better word, asshole or scumbag, or someone who is just calling out someone because they are a woman or because they're a person of color, then you need to check your life, because that's not what it's about. But you should be able to give an accurate description of a movie and say if you liked it or not without being hurled accusations at. So that being said, I hope that you guys, again, to also bring up, yes,
That was really well done, white man.
thank you, sir. So what I will say also is to all the veterans out there, happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you for everything that you do. And to my pops, happy Veterans Day, pops. Thank you guys for joining us here today. Coy, where can the people find you?
You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and newly reawakened my YouTube. I grew it like 1,000 in my Captain Marvel review, so a lot of people tuned in and then followed there, so I appreciate it. It's one of my highest. I got like 22,000 views on that thing. So thank you for tuning into my YouTube, but check me out there. And also thank you to everyone that's been understanding of my experience of a film not always being positive. I appreciate you guys.
Winston,
What's up?
where can they find you?
At the Swaggy Blurred on all the things, man. You know, on the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Twitter X's and YouTube. That's the one thing that I'm really excited about. I actually had been shooting a lot of content during the strike. I just didn't release any of it for obvious reasons. So a lot of my CPT reviews, those are going to be coming out. I'm actually going to probably blitz all of my Loki reviews because I had recorded 1 through 4 and again sat on them. So all of that stuff is going to be coming out. So please, I would greatly appreciate if you go over to my YouTube channel and show some love, show even more class and some swag as well, and subscribe to the channel.
Thank you guys for joining us here today on The Big Thing. Once again, if you're able to and you can get there, check us all out. We're going to be December 2nd at Flappers Comedy Club. Hit that button right underneath. You can get to the tickets. Do it. I'm talking about hitting buttons. Look at that great graphic. 200,000. Get to it. Do it. Subscribe. Help us get to that journey. Thank you guys. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Really appreciate you guys. And we'll see you on Monday for the spoiler review. Peace.